Hello, this is Deborah from 3D Gumshoe. In this video, I'll be taking you through TurboSquid's Maya CheckMate script. Make sure you go to the TurboSquid's site and download the CheckMate script, and also take a look at their CheckMate Pro and CheckMate Lite standards to see which test you should be adhering to. I'm just going to go through each test and give you an explanation about what each test is about. Let's start off with no personal contact info in the README. You shouldn't have your email address, your website, your phone number, or any other form of contact info in a README. Here's an example of that. Here's the website and the email address. You also shouldn't hide it in your texture files. And here's an example of that. Next is no errors on opening. There should be no pop-ups or error messages in the script editor. Usually errors show up in the script editor and have a red background. Centered and oriented to grid. Your model should be at 0, 0, 0 or as close to it as possible. Let's take a look at this model. This model is at as close to 0, 0, 0 as possible. Also, your model should be oriented up. So if we take this model, if you open it and the model looks like this, it's not oriented up, so you need to correct it so that it's oriented in the proper state. Let's go back to the script. Polygon count. This is more of a manual test. You can run the test and enter the polygon and vertex count you have on your full preview page and see if they match up. To view your polygon count, let's go back to Maya. You can go to Display, Heads Up Display, and Polygon Count. The first column consists of the stats for the whole scene. The second column is everything that is selected. So depending on what you select, that will change the numbers in the second column. The third column is for selected components on objects. So if we go into vertex mode and select these vertices, it will show you the count for that. One thing to remember is that to have an accurate vertex and polygon count, make sure that everything in your scene is zoomed out, because if you zoom in, as you can see, these numbers right here are changing. So make sure everything that is in your scene is in the viewport so you can get an accurate vertex and polygon count. Okay, next is real world scale. This isn't an actual test, but it does give you the dimensions of the objects in your scene. If you have a background plane or a sphere encompassing your scene, then the dimensions won't be accurate for real-world comparison. You would have to measure your main model separately. No n-gons. Your model should have no n-gons. This test also fails if you have above a certain amount of tries. It might be 10%, but don't quote me on that. It's best to fix these manually if you have a character for rigging purposes. Running cleanup can mess up your geometry if you have a character, but if you have an inanimate object such as a cell phone or a crane, you can run the cleanup. Z-fighting and artifacting. This is not an actual test either. You have to look around your model to see if you see any Z-fighting, which is when two faces are fighting to be seen by the camera, so the face or faces flicker black. No zero area faces. As of today, TurboSquid does not check for zero area faces for Maya, so you don't have to worry about this. No reversed faces. This is a tricky test. This test does fail if your model has reversed faces, but it also may fail if your model has open faces or if the faces are too close together. If the test fails your model because of actual reversed faces, you should fix them by flipping the normals. If you have a very large scene, your model passing depends on if the flipped normals interfere with how the model renders. Let's take a look at this model. If we go and run the flip normals test, we can see that it's true. So now I can go to normals. Oh no. display polygons face normals. And if we go to normal size, usually they start out at 1. Hold on, it's not displaying polygons face normals. So you usually want to try and decrease the size so you can see it better. So we can go to normal size. I'll change it to 0.02. Close that out. And let's zoom in. And as we can see, these are displayed as dots as opposed to lines, so that usually gives an indication of if they're flipped. And now if we go to polygons, reverse, now we can see the normals. And you want to make sure you turn off the display. And when we run the test again, it's false, so we fixed it. No isolated vertices. This test is for vertices that are out there hanging out by themselves. You can fix this by running the test and going to Edit, Mesh, Delete, Edge / Vertex. So let's go to this model and let's run the isolated vertices test, and it selects the vertices for you. You usually can see it better if you're in wireframe form. And since it selects the vertices, you can go to Edit Mesh, Delete Edge / Vertex. And then you want to run the test again. Oh, and they're still there. So when this happens, you can zoom in to the vertices and go to vertex mode and select the vertex, and you can move it over. Make sure you have the snapping on. Move it over to another vertices that exists, and then select both of those and merge them. So go to Edit Mesh, Merge, and if we run the test again, we have one vertex, so that worked for that vertex. So you can do it to the other vertex, and then you should have no more isolated vertices. Okay, no overlapping vertices. This test is for vertices that are overlapping each other. This test usually takes the longest, especially if your model is dense. To fix this, you can run the test and go to Edit Mesh and Merge. So let's run the overlapping vertices test on this. And that's a lot of overlapping vertices. So let's go to Edit Mesh and Merge and run the test again, and we fixed it. No overlapping faces. This test is for faces that are on top of each other. The best way to fix this is to go in and delete the faces manually. Sometimes you can merge them. So let's go back to the model. Overlapping faces test. Let's see where these faces are. Yeah, I think I'm just going to delete this. So go into face mode, select that, and make sure one face is selected, and then you're going to delete it. And let's run the test again, and we fixed that.